I'll call the Plan Commission meeting on March 8th, 2022 to order. Roll call, please.
Hannah here.
Rilla here.
Shinsky here.
Laura here. David Chair. Kuzikowski here. Holdani here.
Shepherd here.
Chandler here.
Okay. That will get us to the approval of the minutes of February 22nd, 2022. And just for reference, that was 2/22/22, if anybody's interested. We're satisfied there's no errors, omissions, corrections, or discussion. Motion, please.
Shepherd moves to approve the minutes of February 22nd, 2022.
Oracle second. Roll call, beginning with Christine, please.
Hannah, aye.
Rilla, aye.
Shinsky, aye.
Laura, aye. Kavich, aye. Kuzikowski, aye. Holdani, aye.
Shepherd, aye.
Chandler, aye.
For the record, the vote for Commissioner Hannah was aye.
There you go. Now you're on.
Hannah, aye. Yep, here we go.
Did we get through that whole vote? We're good? Okay, thank you. Item 4, significant common council actions. Carrie?
Council approved the following: a resolution adopting an amendment to the sanitary sewer service plan for the city of Oak Creek, an ordinance adopting an amendment to the comprehensive plan, city of Oak Creek, which was adopted March 3rd, 2020, and further amended in November 2020, for the properties at 4005, 4060, and 4159 East Lake Vista Parkway. An ordinance adopting an amendment to the comprehensive plan, city of Oak Creek, adopted March 3rd, 2020, further amended November 2020, for the properties at 2231 West Buttes, 8843R South 13th Street, and 8950 South 20th Street. And the ordinance to repeal and recreate Chapter 17 zoning code of the municipal code was held until the March 15th Common Council meeting. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Appreciate that. Item 5, Board of Housing and Zoning Appeal Actions. There were none. On item 6, Quarterly Parks Recreation Commission Actions. Our next report will be coming March 22nd, 2022. That will get us to our new business, item 7A. It's a review of a certified survey map submitted by David DeSantos, Mod Homes LLC, dividing the properties at 10730 South Howell Avenue. Carrie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The proposal is to divide the property in two. It is currently one piece that is part of a PUD. Zoning is as shown on the screen, and the PUD was actually approved in 2019. This does not actually affect those approvals. This proposal to divide the properties is actually in direct correspondence to the proposed condo plats in the next two agenda items. On the screen right now is the full certified survey map showing the division for lots 1 and 2. That division is actually on the phasing line. It does meet the district requirements, and again, PUD setbacks appear to be unaffected in the proposal. There are a few corrections that will be required prior to recording the map. Easements, including the private sanitary sewer crossing, which are currently under review by the city attorney, need to be recorded concurrently with the map and noted on the map. The private road names need to be put on the map instead of just highlighting private drive, because we do actually have those road names. The easement and the grant of access for the benefits of the two lots over each other should be noted on the CSM. There is a dissolution note on sheet 1 that should be removed. The condo association has not been dissolved. The legend has an incorrect symbol for the wetlands that should be corrected. Sheets 2 and 3 show the incorrect owner information. The dates on the signature pages should all be updated to 2022. We have a couple of minor name corrections on sheet 5, and the common council approval on sheet 5 needs to remove the dedication acceptance, as there are no dedications included as part of this CSM. On the screen right now, just a kind of blow up of the two areas, highlighting lots 2 and 1. And on the screen is the suggested motion for approval. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Before I go to the commission, would the applicant like to say anything, or would you just like to wait for questions if you're with us tonight?
Mr. Chairman,
You'll have to be on the mic, sir.
yeah. I like just fell asleep, so if I walk.
I get it. We'll need your name and address, please.
My name is Attorney Steve Sorensen. My address would be 55 South Jewelers Park Drive, Neenah, Wisconsin. I'm appearing here on behalf of the developer. His representative is also here, and we have worked with the city in this project, and we're just dividing the project that was approved mainly for financing purposes. That's really our, and we will make all the corrections that Carrie has indicated. I've already talked to the Kupar Engineering who did that they have to make those changes, but they weren't going to make them until we got done with tonight and we knew where we were going. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. With that, we'll go to the commission. Christine, would you like to start?
Yeah, I have no questions.
Dawn?
Nothing for me.
Ashley?
No questions.
Greg?
No questions, thank you.
Chris?
None for me,
Don?
pretty straightforward.
Nope, no questions.
Fred?
No questions.
Chauncey?
No questions, thank you.
Oh, well, it's, I'm not gonna, belabor the point. We pretty much hashed this out in 2019 pretty well. And again, it's just the second phase. They had always planned it this way. I believe they went with 40 some homes to begin with, and it was just a continuation of it. So, as long as we get those corrections that are needed and staff is happy with it, I'm good. So, seeing no further discussion, motion please.
Guzekowski, I make a motion that the Plan Commission recommends to the Common Council that the certified survey map submitted by David DeSandro Mod Home LLC for the property at 10730 South Howell Avenue be approved with the following conditions. One, that all required easements for sanitary sewer are recorded concurrently with the certified survey map. Two, that all private road names are identified on the map prior to recording. Three, that all required easements and access approvals are incorporated into condominium documents. Four, that all technical corrections, including but not limited to the spelling errors, minor coding geometry corrections, and corrections required for compliance with the municipal code and Wisconsin statutes are made prior to recording. And is that it? All right, thank you.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call, beginning with Ashley, Dawn.
Grillo, aye.
Chinsky, aye.
Laura, aye. David Chai.
Guzekowski, aye.
Holdani, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye. Anna, aye.
Okay, item 7B, review of a request submitted by David DeSantos Mod Homes LLC for a condominium plat for phase 1 of the residence at Oakview and its planned unit development on the property at 10730 South Howell Avenue. Carrie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the next two items are basically establishing condominiums for each of those phases that we just reviewed in the certified survey map in the previous agenda item. Because the original condo development, which was for the entire PUD, was recorded prior to tonight's meeting, this does look like and it is presented as an amendment to the original. We did not get a chance to review that, so this is kind of correcting two things in that document. So the phase 1 and this particular condo will cover the first 42 units on what is now lot 1. Private streets, the clubhouse with the pool, these are all existing. The stormwater pond, wetlands and floodplains to that point. And then phase 2 will be their own condominium, and that's in the next agenda item. So the amendment to the declaration and the reciprocal easement were also included in the Plan Commission's packets for review. We'll talk about those in just a moment. Right now on the screen is the recorded condominium plat, again showing the entire development for all of the, I believe it's 83, but they're allowed up to 85 homes in the PUD. And then as proposed, phase 1 on lot 1 would be the condominium for the residences at Oakview 1. The reciprocal easement will be to allow for cross-access between the two phases so that phase 2, lot 2, and condominium 2 will have the benefit of utilizing all of the accesses and roads in Lot 1, Phase 1, Condo 1, including the clubhouse and pool, and then vice versa for Lot 1 over Lot 2. Those have ownership and the amendment to the declaration and the declaration itself have ownership, maintenance responsibilities for everything within the PUD as well as the access. So what we want to have included in there on a note on the condo plat, making sure that everything is references each other. We want to make sure that we include the sanitary sewer easement and also include the responsibility for maintenance and ownership of the stormwater infrastructure in the reciprocal easement and in the condo declaration, just making sure that, again, everything is referencing itself, so there's no question. If somebody picks up one document, they don't get everything in all the other documents. They are aware that there is a cross-access easement, there is maintenance responsibility, and that does include the stormwater infrastructure. With that, there is a suggested motion with a couple of conditions for Plan Commission consideration on the screen. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. And once again, I mean, if the applicant wants to make a statement or just wait for questions. Okay. I will go right to the commission and we'll kick it off to my right, Commissioner Chandler.
I do have a question for the applicant. My question is in regards to the responsibility for the maintenance and ownership of the stormwater infrastructure. I just wanted to get your feedback on taking ownership of that item.
Yeah, so both of all the stormwater is the responsibility of both phase one, or excuse me, now condominium 1 and condominium 2. Because of the wording of the declaration and because of the wording of the it's a cross easement. In other words, they both have responsibility. For example, the condominium 2 has the right to go onto condominium 1 to maintain if condominium 1 doesn't take care of it. Condominium 1 has the right to go onto condominium 2 if condominium 2 doesn't take care of it. So it's really exactly as we originally designed it. It's, again, both parties have responsibility for everything as far as maintenance is concerned.
So, quick question for Carrie. Does that need to be documented somewhere?
So staff's question or staff's comment was really because when we read the declaration, we noticed that there were certain things that were spelled out, but stormwater was not in there. So we just want to make sure that that's clear in the document. It's really just kind of a clarification point. And then the reciprocal easement, that was what Attorney Sorensen was saying. The reciprocal easement allows for that cross access throughout the development. So we want to make sure that that's referenced in the declaration, just to kind of, like a check and balance, cover all bases there.
Okay. And then the next question that I had. So on page 2 of the First Amendment to Declaration for Residents at Oakview Condominium, Section 3, in regards to the separation of phase 2 of the development. So are we saying there aren't 2 phases, a phase 1 and phase 2?
Right. We're saying there's only one phase because we took phase 2 and we converted it into a separate condo. So phase 1 is not going to be divided into 2 phases. Phase 1 becomes condominium 1. What was phase 2 is now condominium 2.
So 2 different things.
2 different things,
Okay.
But again, understand the declaration pulls them back together again. It's purely for financing reasons that we had to separate them.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Right. And just for the record, that was Attorney Sorensen's.
Yes, Attorney Sorensen, you need my address again?
No, you did it the first time. It just makes it so much easier on people that do that.
Yeah, I perfectly understand.
Great. Thank you. Fred.
Yeah, I have a question about visitor parking. Your roads are very narrow. You can't really park on the street. It's a problem. I saw the snow on Tuesday or Monday morning, and it was a problem cleaning it out in your subdivision already. And I see some real problems because there's no real opening in the road to get by if you park any cars in the street. So do you have any visitor parking for that facility.
Yeah, you would down by the clubhouse. And you could have parking down, well, there is parking down by the clubhouse. So a visitor could park down by the clubhouse and walk up to. The other thing that we've tried to maintain and is part of the regulation is, and we got to start doing a little enforcement on this, is you're not supposed to park in your driveway. In other words, you're supposed to go inside your garage. And one of the things we've been working on is to make sure that people recognize that. And that, that gives you the off-street parking as well as inside your garage parking. That's why we built it that way.
Well, some of your people
I know.
are using your garage as a storage area.
I know. And we're going to have to do something about that. We know that.
That's
it,
it.
Fred? Okay, Don?
I don't have any questions right now.
Chris?
On meter. Thank you.
Greg?
I'm just curious, I know this is the plat and not the site review. But originally there was a dog park. Is there still a dog park?
Yes.
Does that need to be noted on this as well? I know that the
Go ahead, I'm sorry,
people
Gary.
are.
The dog park is part of phase two. Phase two, if it does include that dog park, that specific component has to come to plan commission for site plan review first before it can be put in. That was a condition of the PUD.
Ashley?
Nothing from me.
Dawn?
Nothing for me.
Christine?
Nothing here.
No, it's continuation and, just kind of touch on the roads. I kind of asked over to Ashley. These are private roads. So again, they're built to a little bit different standard than what an Oak Creek City Street is. City streets, when you park two cars together, only one can get through there at a time. But, point well taken. It's usually in the conditions and restrictions that they get that parking accomplished. So, because it is a private condominium complex. So they by homeowners association define the rules.
Yeah, and they're only hurting themselves, but we've pointed that out to them.
Okay. There's no further discussion or questions. Motion on B, correct? 7B.
Well, Donnie moves that the Plan Commission approves the condominium plat for the first amendment of the residences at Oak Creek View condominium for the property at 10730 South Howell Avenue with the following conditions. 1, that all relevant code requirements and conditions of the plan unit development remain in effect. 2, that all required easements for the sanitary sewer and access over Lot 1 for the benefit of the Lot 2 are included on the plat and within the condominium declaration prior to recording. 3, that all revisions to the plat and declaration are submitted to the Department of Community Development prior to submission of permit applications. And 4, that all reviewing agency comments, if any, are incorporated as required.
Guzekowski, second.
Roll call, beginning with Ashley.
Shinsky, aye.
Clark, aye.
Chai.
Guzekowski, aye.
Hold on,
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye. Anna, aye. Curlow, aye.
Okay, item 7C is review of a request submitted by David DeSantos, Modern Homes LLC for condominium plat for phase 2 of the residence at Oakview Planned Unit Development on the property at 10730 South Howell Avenue. Carrie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is phase 2. This would be condominium 2. We just want to make sure that the correct title is incorporated into both the plat as well as the documents. Documents refer to it as residences at Oakview 2. So we just want to make sure that the plat reflects that as well. Basically the same kind of proposal as before. The only difference is that phase 2 does not include the clubhouse and the amenities. So this would have 41 units of the PUD and the private streets with the connections, wetlands and floodplains. And just to kind of clarify, that future dog park would again have to come back to the Plan Commission, but it's not shown on the plat because it's not existing yet. This is the recorded condominium plat, again showing the entirety of the PUD. And for phase 2, what's showing is future buildings, as well as those restrictions on the property in terms of wetlands and floodplains. We do have the same kind of comments regarding the amendment to the declaration and the reciprocal easement to make sure that we have those things referenced in each other and including the sanitary sewer easement and making sure that the responsibility for the stormwater infrastructure is incorporated, just that language for clarification purposes in the declaration. With that, there is a suggested motion for Plan Commission consideration on the screen. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. I will go right to the commission with this, starting with Christine.
I have no questions.
John? Ashley?
Nothing.
Greg?
No questions, thank you.
Chris?
No questions, thank you.
Don?
No questions, thanks.
Fred?
No questions.
And Chauncey?
No questions. Thank you.
I have none either. I think we've covered this pretty thoroughly. So, with that being said, motion on C, please.
Donnie moves that the Plan Commission approves the condominium plat for the residents at Oakview Condominium 2 for the property at 10730 South Howell Avenue with the following conditions. 1, that all relevant code requirements and conditions of the plan unit development remain in effect. 2, that all required easements for the sanitary sewer and accesses over Lot 1 for the benefit of Lot 2 are included on the plat and within the condominium declaration prior to recording. 3, that all revisions to the plat and declaration are submitted to the Department of Community Development prior to submission of permit applications. And 4, that all reviewing agency comments, if any, are incorporated as required.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call, beginning with Brett.
Clark, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Donnie, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye. Anna, aye. Grillo, aye.
Krasinski, aye.
Okay. We'll get us to 7D, and it's a plan review. Review of site and related plans submitted by Eric Fleischman, St. John's Evangelical Lutheran Church for a proposed community garden on the property at 6700 South Howell Avenue. This is nice and exciting. So, Carrie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The proposal is incorporating multiple items on the property. What's before the Plan Commission for actual approval tonight are the structures in the patio. So the community garden incorporates 24 raised bed garden boxes, 8 of which, or 8 in addition, not sure which, will be accessible for those with disabilities. Now, this community garden will be open to members of the congregation as well as members of the community itself. There were some details that were incorporated into the packet for Plan Commission review that kind of laid out the details for how the boxes would be distributed in terms of percentages to the congregation versus the community at large. There's a patio space with picnic tables and a movable wood fire pit. There's a table that they refer to in the overall plans. That's kind of part of just the overall area. It's identified for some place for people to put, excess produce to kind of do their trade back and forth of items, and then items for donation. So that would be left on the table in the patio area that's right in front of the storage structure that we're going to be speaking about. And on that storage structure, there's also a notice board area, and all of this will become relevant in just a moment. There's also a covered compost bin area that is behind that storage structure. The structure itself, and this is giving you a site plan overview of where we're talking about. It's on the east side of the property. No changes to the parking or the access to the property. Literally just in an existing lawn area. And this looks a little bit confusing as to what we're looking at, but the different highlights are just to kind of give you an idea of where things are proposed on the site. So the yellow that's highlighted on the north, that's actually a proposed fenced area, kind of delineating where the beginning of the boxes and the garden beds are going to be going. That has kind of like a post and almost like a wall on the corners, but in between those posts are going to be ropes. So it's a very, very lightly fenced, if you will, area, just kind of delineating again the northern boundary. The blue box is just highlighting where all of the raised beds are going to be going. And then south of that, that's your patio area in gray. The 4 brown boxes are just representing, picnic tables. They could have more or less. The purple squares indicating their movable fire pit, which we have no jurisdiction over. They can have a movable fire pit as long as it complies with fire department requirements. The green boxes are actually highlighting those kind of fence wall areas. And when we have a rendering, you'll get an idea of what that looks like. The orange, which you can kind of see down here, if you can see my cursor, those are the compost bins But really the highlight of what the Plan Commission is going to be reviewing are the red boxes. That's the storage structure itself. So on the top right corner here, what we're looking at is the south elevation. It's a very, very narrow structure. It's only about 2 feet wide at most. It's really intended just to hang tools, just a small area for people to store a couple of things. And I think there's a shelf in there as well. And then on the table side, the table is actually right here in front of the structure. This is showing the opposite side, but the table is actually in front of the structure, and there will be a bulletin board, whiteboard kind of area for people to leave messages. And this is giving you an idea of what their vision is. So again, these low kind of walls that separate the area from the parking lot, the patio area, which is proposed pavers, that storage structure that has a little bit of the signage and that whiteboard. So what staff is recommending for that whiteboard, because this is kind of a unique situation here, if that overall signage with the whiteboard can in any way be reduced to no more than, I think I said in the report, 42 or 48 square feet, we can use that as a kind of combined area that would qualify for the bulletin board exemption for religious institutions. If we can do that, we don't need a sign, and they can just move forward with putting it up. The structure itself is intended to be basically constructed lap siding for exterior building materials, a couple of doors on the east, and a slanted shingle roof. No outdoor lighting is proposed. There are no other changes to the site that are required for this. Restrooms would be available when the church is open during other events, and the water would be supplied on site through other various buildings that are already there. Hours of operation are during daylight hours between April and October. And with that, there's a suggested motion for approval for Plan Commission consideration on the screen. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Really neat plan. Is the applicant with us? Come on up, please. Sure. Name and address, please, and then I'll let you do a little narrative of what you're looking to accomplish here.
Sure, Eric Fleischman. I'm a member at St. John's at 6700 South Howell Avenue. I'm also an architect, so this kind of fit in with what I do. You want me to just explain kind of the narrative about it? Okay.
Sure. Probably take.
I'll do the short version. I don't want to put anyone to sleep. So I'm on the board of outreach, and we thought that we wanted to serve the community of Oak Creek by kind of providing a space for growing, and then also like meeting people at a easier kind of midway point where they're not necessarily having to come into the church, but we could meet them at a neutral, so to speak, ground where we're doing something that we both, members and the community are growing something, activating this nice piece of property we have, and then serving our community. Kind of further on that, we envision that the produce could be kind of traded or donated, or even brought to the the farmers market here in Drexel. Thank you, Drexel Town Square on a Saturday, and maybe we take a suggested donation, and any proceeds might get put towards furthering that with South Milwaukee's Human Concerns, which is kind of a food pantry existing that we've worked with in the past. So just kind of enlarging those efforts by that way, as well as serving the community. We started with 24 boxes. We showed about 8 of them as kind of extra within the reach range that theoretically someone in a wheelchair, and we'll have to work out making that ground nice and solid, could roll up to and use the space. We also have a Jesus Cares ministry that has special needs people that I think could easily fit into that category of use. And then any community members, grandma or grandpa still wants to garden or something like that, that could be an opportunity there. There's 24 shown, but the south side, which on the right side of that rendering, could expand and have more boxes depending on how it goes. We're hoping that it takes off, and we can really have a good partnership with everyone here, bring people on to the site. So thank you.
Good, Eric. We've had a lot of people ask for something like this. So I think it's pretty innovative. So, we'll go to the commission. We'll start with, Chauncey.
I do have a couple questions. So my first question in regards to the storage area.
Mhm.
So what will be stored in that area?
Yeah, on the backside of that sign, shovels, maybe seeds or soil, like bags of, I don't know, peat moss or something that you throw into your soil, or just anything garden related, that maybe hoses, things like that.
So will it be available to anyone? Anyone can walk up and use it, or is it locked, a locked area?
I think it would be unlocked. I mean, we're hoping that this will improve. I mean, I have one of these next to my house, and I think it has improved the public surveillance aspect of the properties. Like, I truly feel that it makes an easier, safer space that people can do this and get together, and people are kind of watching the well-being of the other plots, and things going on there are good. So I think it will be not necessary to do that.
Okay. And then in regards to the whiteboard or the signage
Yeah.
area, so any feedback on reducing that sign?
Well, the reason the sign is there, it's not just, there's a specific reason. We want to have a programming aspect to this, that on a Saturday morning, for example, we have multiple members that are kind of health-minded individuals. Like one pastor's wife, Pastor Myers here, she's, what does she do again? Health coach. So there's like different members. We have another member who owns Curves. So there's like different people that know different things. We're hoping that maybe on a Saturday they have a half hour and they scribble out some common sense things that the garden user or anyone who shows up can use. And that might be a nice outdoor kind of classroom space that also could serve as other things. So it's kind of a multi-purpose use of the whiteboard. Like, we can shrink it down. It is, I think it's 4 by 6 or 8. So it could be smaller. We're just hoping to have a nice space where people can utilize and then just wash it off and on to the next thing. And then we'll see how this goes, but we have another aspect of our church website that we would record these things and then let people see them a second time or third.
So a quick question for Carrie. So if the size remains the same, is there anything different that we would have to identify in the motion?
What staff was trying to get was the Rita Community Garden at St. John's Lutheran Church in combination with the whiteboard. If that overall square footage, and unfortunately we have to count the dead space, if you will, around all elements. If we can get that to shrink down a little bit so that we can exempt it from having to go forward with another permit, that's what we were hoping to do. That's under the existing code as well. So the sooner we can kind of make that agreement, the more we can say this is done, so that when the new code is adopted next week, we won't be having any conflicts with a new sign code that may apply here. To be honest, I have not really determined whether or not what they're proposing under the new code would be problematic. So that's why we made that recommendation, that if just the overall square footage, and it could be, shrinking down the letters, it could be shrinking down the board itself, just to an overall square footage, can just put them under that bulletin board exemption. That's what we were hoping for.
I think we can do that easily. That's what you're saying. We're saying with kind of, if you took a box around the rooted all the way down to the bottom of a church, that would be kind of one area, and then the whiteboard itself is another area, and those two combined have to equal 48 or less.
I think we can work with that.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. It's easy.
And then my next question, in regards to those that are in the gardening area, I noticed that parking is right next to where these garden beds would be. So is there a plan to have some type of barriers for these cars so that they're not backing into or running into this area while people are gardening?
Yeah. I think and this was something that we kind of internally talked about. The border of it could be more of a greenery, like a hedge or something that would be cheaper, and it could cut down on or make a more clear buffer. Like the posts are going to be more work. Like we could do something like that, and that would create a sound and light and physical barrier where some of those open spaces, like we could do that instead if that would make you feel a little better. But we didn't plan for it yet, but we talked about it. I guess is that what you're getting at, like kind of on the west side, that there's a little more something there. So
Yes,
that
just for the safety of anyone that may be in that area, just a recommendation.
yeah.
Are there curb stops there currently?
No, but, no, they're not.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Fred?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. How do you sign up for this rental type
You'll be our first guy.
space? You know, and what is the size that you can rent? Can you have 2 boxes or half a box?
Yeah.
How is this determined?
So one of our secretary at our church, he's the tech guy. We have also got a link on our website that will allow you to reserve a box. So it'll be very easy that way. And we're hoping that, we'd probably start people off with a 4x8. And then if we have leftover, then we would come back through and say like, do you want another one? So it's going to depend on how many people sign up, but starting with a 4x8, yeah.
So there is a limit to how much you can sign up for, correct?
I think at first, and then depending on, we'll have some sort of deadline, and then if we still have openings, then we'll say anyone else who wants another one, go right ahead, and we're happy to do that. We want these to be full, so however that happens, and we want to give preference to the community. I think we had like a 70-30 percentage or 60-40. I can't remember, Carrie. But we want the community to have the majority of these. That's the idea. Serve the community.
I think it's a good idea. I like the
thank you.
concept that you've come up with.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, it looks like 60 to 70 public and 30 to 40 congregation.
And yeah,
Hey, Don?
Fred took my question about signing over.
I apologize.
And I'm not concerned about this. It's so far off the beaten path way back there. I mean, I trust staff's ability to figure something out with the applicant, so I'm good with the whole thing. It's a good idea.
Thank you. Thank you. This is a great idea. Very, very ingenious, and whoever thought of it, I mean, it's something that we should consider doing in other parts of the city, or maybe other church communities consider doing something like this. But thank you for being the leader, because this is really impressive.
Thank you.
And I think my only question or concern would be possibly would be what you do for parking with people back in or pulling in, whether you have to do something for a barrier or something. That'd be my concern.
Okay. Greg?
I don't have any more questions or concerns. Thank you.
Ashley?
No comments.
Don?
I am a planning commissioner, but I also am the farmer's market manager. So,
Oh yeah, I do look familiar. That name is very familiar. So we want to get a booth.
give me a call and we'll talk about
Okay.
your options.
Yeah, I think I might have sent you some emails in the past, pre this idea, so
Okay.
I will do that. Yeah, thank you.
Nothing here, thank you.
Okay. I spoke with Eric earlier, and we have had a lot of people ask about this in the community. And, the city just doesn't have bandwidth really to set it up and manage and do the whole thing. So I think this is a great addition to the city, and I thank you and your congregation for considering the community at large as well as your your religious community.
Thank you.
As far as water goes, are you just gonna come off like a hose bip off the building, or are you guys gonna run external water anywhere?
If Carrie could go to the site plan again, please. So there's two existing water spigots, kind of one in the middle of the existing church. There's a little call out there. And then we have two garages. One, it's all white, so it's really hard to see, but the top middle, that's a garage. And then there's another garage on the bottom right. So we're going to do rain barrels on all those and hopefully do the brunt of the water from there. I guess we have a few members that use them and they really fill up quick. So we're hoping to really offset any water needed with those. And if we really need it, then we will fill them up on like a Sunday after service.
Just a suggestion, contact MMSD and, the Fresh Coast Project, you can get those rain barrels.
Yeah, funny
class and have the kids decorate them. It's cool.
coincidence that you said that. Karen, forgot her last name, but she's from MMSD. She called me and asked if we could partner up. So they are going to probably get us some rain barrels, and then they might have like a class that we could host, kind of talking about water in the city and how it's used and how it's conserved, that sort of thing. So we're hoping to work something out with them, partner with them.
And I'm sure you want this thing probably up and operational for the growing season coming up here pretty quickly.
Yes, please.
I was gonna say, if we would have known about this sooner, we always have Eagle Scouts looking to do community projects, and
Sure.
boy, this one would have fit right up one of their alleys. This is cool. So
Yeah.
you still may want to engage another civic group that way as well. So
We, well, it's kind of, we want to break ground when FOST is out. And with the budget and internally approvals and stuff at our church. So as soon as possible and with material lead times, those sorts of things. But if there's someone that wants to help put stuff together, like we're definitely going to have a work weeks to get it done. So I could.
yeah, the Eagle Scouts have a defined program, so many
Okay.
hours planning, and they got to raise some money, but
Okay.
it ain't out of the realm to think that maybe a portion of it would fit their project. You'd be better off talking to them, but if I can make that connection,
Yeah.
definitely will for you.
Yeah. Or a future phase if we expand.
Exactly. You can always keep them in mind. They're always looking
Yeah.
for unique projects like this, and it's
Yeah.
pretty much fits their mold from the things I've seen from them. So,
Great.
other than that, no, I like it. As Don said, I trust you'll work with staff, the parking issue, the curb stops are easy. It looks beautiful this way. I mean, even if you put a little chain link up there, it ain't gonna stop anything, but, we want to be cost effective as well. So, we'll just trust you to work with staff on that. So, are there any further questions, discussions?
No.
No? Everybody ready to ramp the plot?
Yeah. We'll have it up soon.
Seeing no more questions or discussions, motion please.
Hebert moves that the planning commission approves a site building and related plans submitted by Eric Fleischman, St. John's Evangelical Lutheran Church for the property at 6700 South Howell Avenue, with the conditions that all detailed final plans are submitted in digital format to the Department of Community Development prior to installation of garden features.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call and I will begin. Bukavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Hold aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye. Emma, aye.
Willow, aye.
Chinsky, aye.
Clark, aye. Great. Wish you luck, and again, let us know how it's going, and if you have some kind of open house,
Yeah.
glad to attend.
Well, thank you guys very much. Thank you for your time.
Yep, thank you. We'll get us to 7E, and it is a review of a request by Central States Tower, V LLC, and Celco Partnerships doing business as Verizon Wireless for a conditional use permit for a 145-foot tall monopole with a 5-foot tall lightning rod for a total height of 150 feet, an apparatus and a gated and fenced compound on the property at 2509 West Drexel Avenue. Carrie.
Well, that was a mouthful, but that pretty much sums up what is proposed here. Current zoning is B4. This is a business district. But telecom poles are considered conditional uses in every district in the city if they are of a certain height, and this one certainly exceeds what that threshold is. The proposal is for a 145-foot tall monopole with a 5-foot lightning rod on top. That brings the overall height to 150, and that would be in a 70 by 80 lease area on the property. The 65 by 75 fenced compound is a part of that. It's at the kind of more the rear of the property, the southern end of the property. There is an existing access off Drexel Avenue. What this would do is it would provide an additional 30-foot wide easement within which a 12-foot wide gravel driveway would provide access to the leased and compound area. The compound will be incorporating or will be fenced with 6-foot high chain link fence, 1 foot of barbed wire on top. That's pretty standard. The pole itself, the utility rack, future carrier lease areas, etc., those would be located within the fence compound. There was a couple of items that were mentioned in the proposal on the plans where they were outside of the fenced area. That might be a requirement for Reenergy's access, but we'll work with the applicant on that. The recommendation is that any appurtenances, where possible, should be located within the fenced area. The appurtenances that we're talking about are a transformer, a bollard, and a fiber optic bulb. Due to the area that is proposed to be disturbed, green infrastructure is required. They are showing rain gardens. Those rain gardens will need to be permitted through the city. The appurtenances that we're talking about that were located on the outside of the fenced area are in red on the right-hand side here. It's a small area. If it can't be located inside the fence itself, staff's recommending that it at least be confined to the lease area, not located outside of that lease area. Giving you an idea of where the gates are, on the front here, there's just one access gate, 14 feet wide, in the chain link fence area. And then on the right side, just giving you an overall idea of what that pole is going to look like. Pretty standard, what we've seen for other telecom poles in the city. We do need to include the net increase in impervious surface on the plans prior to any installation. We also are missing the approval specifically from Mitchell Airport. We did get the FAA approval, but we do need a sign off from the airport itself. Plan commissioners should be aware that recommendation of approval of the conditional use does not constitute endorsement of future plans, nor does it preclude additional reviews and approvals. We did have another pole and compound that went through the city review process. I believe that was 2017 or around that time. They were required to go for site and building plan approval before the plan commission after the conditional use was approved. That was mainly for the fence compound area, a little bit of landscaping, although it was a slightly different situation there, and just making sure that everything was according to code. The other thing that we need to be cognizant of, and we believe that the proposal does meet with the 27th Street Access Management Plan that was reviewed by WISDOT. These are kind of Art Bauman's notes here, just making sure that the proposed tower and the infrastructure are located outside of that future connection point for the access management plan. On the screen is a suggested motion for plan commission consideration. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Would the applicant like to say a few words before we come to commission? Need your name and address, sir.
Good evening. My name is Michael Long. I represent both Central States Tower and Verizon Wireless. My address is 511 North Broadway, Milwaukee, 53202. We've had a chance to take a look at the report prepared by Carrie, and we feel that we can work with staff on the issues that were raised. As Carrie mentioned, the DOT has indicated that there's going to be an extension of the road east from 27th Street, and then it will then swing north up to Drexel.
Possibly in the
on-
future.
Yep.
It's a plotted road. I wouldn't say it's a inevitability, but we have to plan for it, correct, Carrie?
We have to accommodate that because that's what's shown on the WISDOT access management plan. That's what's being prepared. That's what's proposed in the area. It's not to say that the exact configuration couldn't change, but this is the layout as per that plan. It's also lining up with the future public road connection that is to the south of this that's going through the Oaks at 8100. So we do have to make sure that we're accommodating that future plan.
And we double checked with the DOT, both Mr. Bauman, who's a project engineer, as well as in the general counsel's office of the DOT, and both departments there indicated that after looking at this, they didn't think that the tower would interfere with any type of future extension of the roads. So,
Well, I guess I'm kind of jumping in. Go ahead.
sure. And then, just as far as some of the other things, we did double check. The airport, as you know, has a height limitation zoning ordinance that is sort of extraterritorial. And in looking at the location of our proposed site and looking at the legal description set forth in that county ordinance, we believe, and we can double check with our survey, we'll double check with the airport, but we are outside of the height limitation ordinance for, at least for the height of our tower. And the initial, or the FAA has indicated that we do not need to light it or paint it or do anything like that to it.
Okay. Is that all for now?
Yes, sure.
Okay.
I'll take some questions if anyone has any questions.
We'll go right to the
Sure.
and then Christine.
I have no questions.
Okay.
Ashley,
No, nothing from engineering.
Greg,
I know local municipalities are kind of limited on what they can do with utilities and cell phone towers. And we kind of went through this, last time we had a cell phone tower closer to a neighborhood that time. But I don't know who my question's for, if it's for Carrie or for the applicant. And I'm just gonna use Vegas because that comes to mind right away. Their cell towers in the city are all decorated like trees. There's greenery up at the top. The tower is painted like a trunk. And I'm not gonna say they disappear, but they do blend in somewhat. Is there a way to require towers to do that, to make them blend in a little bit and not just be a giant metal tower?
I believe that the term you're referring to is commonly referred to as camouflaging. It's a little bit difficult in areas such as this because I have seen where they have camouflaged certain towers. They're typically much smaller and they're next to or adjacent to wooded areas. If you paint this one to look anything different, it will stand out even more actually. Because that was something that we discussed and we have discussed. We've actually been working with the applicants for a couple of years now on this project. And certain things have just delayed it, but the camouflaging thing, you know, you can go either way. You can either paint it so that it's fully black and it looks like a big telephone pole. That's probably not the best. You can keep it, you know, the traditional gray or white or whatever, the, you know, aluminum that it would look like. And it'll look like every other pole that you've seen, and you kind of, your mind's eye just kind of gestalts it, and, you know, it's part of the landscape. Once you start to add in other features, when it's at this height, it does tend to make it stand out even more.
Okay, thank you.
Chris?
No questions from
Don?
You say the FAA said you did not have to put a light on top of that?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just a little surprised at that, but that was my only question.
Ed?
Are you going to control the entrance to your property so that people can't just drive back there at any time they want?
That's a good question. I believe, let me just double check the plans. One of the things that, one of the challenges in that regard is the fact that there is, and you know, the storage operation that's going on there now. We will obviously have a gate at the entrance to the actual tower compound. But as far as our plans are not showing any type of gate for the up closer to Drexel, for controlled access. And I believe one of the reasons is that there's still some movement of vehicles and things back on the property where, the access easement's going to be going.
I still think it'd be a good idea to control the entrance.
I can see, with, the applicants and with the property owner to see if that's something that they would consider.
We don't typically see that. We see the gated area around the compound itself, but the driveway accesses are typically kept clear. That's for emergency services as well as for just regular service of the tower. If we suddenly introduced a gate there, we'd be probably talking about a couple of different things. One of the notations in the staff report is that this property does have self-storage, or not self-storage, but it does have a storage area on it. And there are concrete areas that we're looking into to actually have some of that removed. It's a little extensive. We don't find any approvals on file for any of it. So it's something that staff is aware of. We're kind of working internally to figure out how to address that. But like I said, with other existing utility poles in the area, with some exceptions, it's typically just the compound that's gated. It's not the actual access drive.
Just looking at it down the road, though, there is some salvage trees, I should say, and so forth in the area. And I just have a feeling people could drive down there, you know.
If I can tell you there is and it's not something that, that applicants have installed, but there is a gated locked access to enter into the, area now. So there is a control entry point, that the property owner has in place right now. We wouldn't be doing anything extra, I don't think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, in other words, the public can't get much farther than about right here. Yeah, right. Oh. That's right. Yeah. You can't get in.
So if anybody were to drive on the property, they probably have to have four-wheel drive because that's not a paved area, it's not a gravel area, and there's quite a distance in between where the fenced gated area is for their storage and where the 12-foot wide gravel driveway is. I mean, if somebody really wanted to trespass on the property, use the gravel drive to access the rear to take down trees, that's pretty obvious. If it does become a problem, you know, we'll have to address it at that time.
Okay,
Is that it, Fred?
that's it.
Chauncey?
One quick question in regards to the enclosure that's going to be on the grounds. Will the items that Carrie identified, will they be inside there, the vault, the transformer, and the bollard?
We are going to try to put them within the fenced area. The one thing that the challenge in doing that, though, and this is something we're going to have to work out with the utility providers, is that they typically want, if they have to get access to that infrastructure, at those two access points, they want to be able to do that without having to get permission from the tower owner to get into the compound. I think, you know, in looking at the plans, the bollard, I believe, was misplaced, and that I think the bollards are being put in place to protect the corner of that fenced area. But in addition to that, I think the bollards being put in place to protect the electrical and the fiber pedestals that are being installed outside that fenced area. And I think it looks misplaced to me, as far as it needs to be moved maybe a foot or two to show that it's actually offering some protection. But we'll try, we've made note of what Carrie's recommended in the report. We're going to see if we can get it inside the fence and at a very minimum inside the leased area.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Before I go on, Assistant Chief Havey, does any comments from fire on this, or?
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Mike Havey with Oak Creek Fire. We have no comments or concerns with this project.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, I would definitely work with We Energies to, if you can secure that 600 amp service and meter sockets that are gonna be there. Not only that, if a road ever goes through there, they're gonna have to be protected. I know you're gonna work with staff, but make sure the setbacks are there. So if a road would ever go in there, from best guess you could do it this time. Just a little bit of a comment. We go round and round with cell towers. State law has changed lately, taking a lot of local control away of anything we can really do. I think right down to the paint color. I don't think we can request a paint color these days, but this one's really tucked away quite a bit. It's really not impactful to a neighborhood. I can tell you in my neighborhood, there's 2 cell towers within a quarter mile. And if I wouldn't point them out to people now that they're in, they just tend to start to blend and you just kind of don't recognize them. I couldn't give you the footage of them, but yeah, they tend to just kind of go in and become part of the scenery. And they are considered infrastructure, critical infrastructure. And we wouldn't, nobody wants them, but everybody wants a phone. So we got to have them. So I don't have any further questions with it going forward, other than the protection of that equipment. So, okay, if there's no further discussion or questions, motion please.
Mark moves to recommend that the Common Council approve a conditional use permit allowing a wireless telecommunications pole and associated facility on the property at 2509 West Drexel Avenue after a public hearing and subject to conditions and restrictions that will be prepared for the commission's review at the next meeting.
Kuzikowski, second.
Roll call, starting with you, Chris.
Kuzikowski, aye.
Ladani, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye. Anna, aye. Curly, aye.
Kupczynski, aye.
Oric, aye. David, aye. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 7F, it's a review of a certified survey map submitted by CR Dervco LLC, combining and reconfiguring the properties at 2231, 1933 West Putes Road, 8843 South 13th Street, and 8950 South 20th Street. Carrie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a proposed certified survey map. It's doing a couple of things. It is combining, it is reconfiguring, and it's dividing certain properties that are for the applicant's CR Devco. This is something that we had been looking at as part of a comprehensive plan amendment. That comprehensive plan amendment was approved by the Common Council on March 1st. This is in anticipation of a future planning and development on the property. And the several zoning districts are throughout the properties. It's not that B4, RD1, RS2 are on the entirety of these properties. It just kind of goes from B4 along 27th Street and then kind of continues throughout the properties. On the screen right now, I've sectioned off the portions of the certified survey map to kind of make it a little bit easier for review, giving everybody an idea of what's being proposed. And what's being proposed is essentially 4 lots. 4 lots that include some future infrastructure, including the road extensions. The proposed CSM as it's shown on the screen meets all the district requirements, and that's for every zoning district. There is a dedication of public right-of-way included along Putes Road. There's a dedication of the future road extension to serve the development that's terminating in a cul-de-sac, and then a private driveway extension off of that. And then the 20th Street cul-de-sac extension, which will be for gated emergency access only, and that'll be shown a little bit more clearly in the next slide. But on the screen right now is part of the proposed Lot 1, and the proposed Lot 1 is where majority of the development is going to occur, and these are the single-family attached dwellings that we had been shown as part of that comprehensive plan amendment request in the 4, 6, and 8 single-story ranch-style condos. Throughout the development, there are also wetlands and floodplains that are identified on the properties, and those will be areas that will be incorporated as protected areas where possible. And then for the future infrastructure, there will be some wetlands that will need to be filled, and that'll be part of future reviews. On the screen right now is the portion of Lot 1 that shows where that future roadway extension would be coming off of Pete's Road south to serve the development, again, terminating in a cul-de-sac. There are easements that are in place that will remain. The one thing that we should note here is that the certified survey map identifies this future road as South 20th Street. We're asking that be renamed because that actually isn't lining up properly, and it won't be connected to 20th Street on the south. So we have a little bit of confusion if that is called out as 20th Street. We would prefer it to have some kind of tie to the development so that it makes a distinction there. Right now, we're showing portions of lots 2 and 3, and 2 and 3 are not proposed for any kind of development at this time. There is an extension of an access easement from the end of that cul-de-sac for the future public road that will serve the development west. And that is intended to provide any kind of access should there be any future development. But I want to stress at this point, lots 2 and 3 and 4 are not proposed for any development at this time. On the screen right now is the termination of Lot 3 that goes out to 27th Street and also Lot 4. Couple of things to note. There are some access restrictions that will be required as part of the certified survey map, and they affect lots 3 and 4 specifically. Along the entirety of the western portion of Lot 3, as it is shown along 27th Street, that is required to be a no access per WSDOT. When and if that future Lot 3 does come up for development, they will be required to have a shared access with the land that's in between lots 3 and 4. Then along Lot 4 itself, kind of at the corner of where they're showing, this is a future roadway dedication, at the corner right here, for about 350 feet south, will be a no access on Lot 4, and then for about 300 feet along Putes on the north side will be a no access. That's trying to protect the intersection that's there, so vision distances and things like that. Those are things that are going to be required as part of the certified survey map prior to recording. And of course, if this is recommended for approval, there are future reviews that would need to come before the Plan Commission and the Common Council for the development of these properties, which would largely be Lot 1, and then any kind of future developments on lots 2 through 4 would be much more in the future at a future date. We have only received information regarding development of Lot 1 at this time. On the screen is the suggested motion with some conditions of approval for Plan Commission consideration. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. The applicant, would you like to say anything before we start, or, oh, what you got there? You got them online? Oh.
So my name is Ryan Swingruber. I live at 228 Raymond Avenue, Barrington, Illinois. And online is our civil engineer, Christopher Carr with the Sigma Group. So he is available to answer any technical questions from the Plan Commission. And I'm here to answer any questions that are posed.
Okay, thank you. Now I got it. Okay. We'll go right to the commission then. Christine?
Nothing at this time, no.
Dawn?
No, not for me.
Ashley?
No comments.
Greg?
My only question, I guess came to mind when you brought up that road. I know it doesn't line up with South 20th. Does it line up with Apple Creek? Do you know? Would they?
I think it does, actually. And we discussed what that should really be named. Should it be a continuation of Apple Creek? Should it have its own development name? That's something that we can talk about with the applicant and the engineering department to make sure everybody's okay with it, fire department and the police department as well for emergency access and identification purposes. I almost think that at this point, a tie-in with the development, having it be its own road name might be the preference.
Other than that, for the CSM, I have no questions. Thank you.
Chris?
I have no questions either with the CSM.
Don?
No questions.
Fred?
No questions.
Chauncey?
No questions, thank you.
Okay. So just to be clear, we're doing a certified survey map, and the real interest in this is to segregate Lot 1 into what's planned to be developed. There are no plans right now for lots 2, 3, and 4. Now, again, it's the owner's preference. If they ever wanted to come back, they'd have to go through the whole preference once again. We did have a neighborhood meeting. Many of you attended it that were here tonight. There are some significant wetlands. I think it's shown most prominently on lot 4. If you look, I think it's on the screen now. It's kind of like a big donut hole there. So there's some challenges to these properties. And again, I'm not speaking for the applicant, but if it was probably worth shooting for and extending this to lots 2 and 3 at this time, they'd probably be looking at doing it all in one shot then in piecemeal. But I'm not speaking for them. It's just some of the stuff we covered way back in December. So this is really just the survey on it. So I know a lot of you came out here probably for this. It's not a public hearing, but if you got something to say, I'll let you come up for a brief talk. Anybody? Ma'am, name and address. You got to come up. You got to be on the mic for the minutes. So name and address, please.
I'm Barbara Linder, 2411 West Buttes Road. Where you had on the map before, it was in green, and that was, I think you said it was 4. Yeah, lot 4. Now, lot 4, that butts our property, doesn't it?
It's on the corner.
It's the corner of Buttes and 27th, right?
Yep.
So that would butt up against our property. And you said there would not be a road for access off of Buttes or 27th in that development. Are you talking a road the length of my property then?
No, what we're talking about for no access is 350 feet from the corner of Buttes and 27th Street along 27th Street and 300 feet along Buttes. So the no access points would be here. But lot 4 is not proposed for any kind of development. There's no proposed road there
at this time, I know. But I just want to know, there isn't, because the corner there, you wouldn't allow any roads to be put in there. That would abut my property, right?
That no access restriction is not on the east side of the property. The access is on the west side of the property that would be prohibited. And it's just on the corner there.
All right.
Sir.
So I just wanted to follow up on one of the things you said, because I thought it was well put, Mayor. I know a lot of people came out last time with Council of the Whole, and we had our vote for the comp plan amendment, and you had alluded to the presence of wetlands on lot 2, 3, and 4. And what I would like to say is, thankfully, we were awarded a comp plan amendment for lot 1, and there's 2 reasons for that we focused on that lot. Number 1, the duplex zoning designation, which we felt was very consistent with the use that we were proposing. But you also you stated about the wetlands. It wasn't only the wetlands for lot 2, 3, and 4. It's also the existing zoning designations, which are commercial and RD2, which is traditional single-family detached housing. And so when we came to the Planning Commission as well as Council for the comp plan amendment request, we were cognizant of the zoning designations and trying to be consistent with that. And so I know a lot of the neighbors keep asking about concerns about the other lots. Based upon their zoning designation and the presence of wetlands, what we're proposing is not in those areas for some of the reasons that you stated. And so in the event that anyone would come back, I would hope that they'd be respectful of the zoning designations as they exist. So.
Yep. If there's nobody else, kind of said my piece, so I have no further questions on. So, with that, motion, please.
Guzekowski will make a motion.
Trying to get there.
What's that?
Trying to get to the screen. Oh, there we go.
Guzekowski makes a motion that the Plan Commission recommends to the Common Council that a certified survey map submitted by CR Devco LLC for the properties at 2231 and 1933 West Puch Road and 8843R South 13th Street, 8950 South 20th Street be approved with the following conditions. One, that the official map is amended to remove future public streets on parcels per the certified survey map prior to subsequent development reviews. Two, that the future public road to serve the development from West Puch Road be renamed. Three, that no access designations be shown for the full length of the west property line along 27th Street for Lot 3 and for 350 feet for west property line along 27th Street from the intersection with West Puch south on Lot 4 and per the 300-foot on the north property line along Puch Road east from the intersection with 27th Street on Lot 4. 4, that all technical corrections, including but not limited to spelling errors, minor recorded geometry corrections, and corrections required for compliance with municipal code and Wisconsin statutes are made prior to recording.
Oracle second.
Roll call. Don, you want to start?
O'Donnell, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Anna, I.
Grillo, aye.
Shinsky, aye.
Oric, aye.
David Chai.
Kuzikowski, aye.
Okay. That will get us to item G, and it's certified survey map. It's a review of certified survey map submitted by Ryan Jansen, Bruckner LLC, dividing the property at 641 East Drexel Avenue. Jack?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a request to divide the property shown on the screen. The division of the property is intended to be for the proposed plan unit development that will be reviewed later tonight on the agenda. Currently, the property is zoned RS3 and floodway zoning districts. After the property is divided, there will be 3 lots. Lot 1 is 1.11 acres, Lot 2 is 2.242 acres, and Lot 3 is 1.414 acres. Lot 1 is intended to be retained by the current landowners, and Lot 3 is intended to be further divided for development by the applicant. As seen on the screen is the proposed certified survey map. After the division of the parcel, it will meet all dimensional requirements for the zoning district. On the map, there is a dedication of the 60-foot wide right-of-way for the future public road through the parcel. This will provide access from Drexel Avenue to the proposed lots and the adjacent lot to the east. Wetlands have been delineated and shown on the map along with floodplains. A 65-foot wide sanitary sewer and 60-foot wide public utilities easements were not identified on the map. This will need to be shown prior to recording. Furthermore, plan commissioners should be aware that there is an existing deferred special assessment on the property for sanitary sewer that must be paid before issuance of any permits for the development of any lot. Additionally, minor corrections need to be made prior to recording, including updating the label for Drexel Avenue, correcting the spelling of the plan commission secretary's last name, and also amending the language in the signature blocks. With all that being said, there is a recommendation for plan commission to consider.
Great, thank you, Jack. Does the applicant want to say anything before we start? Come on up, sir. Name and address, please.
Sure. Hi, my name is Ryan Jansen, S98W33270 Genevieve Drive out in McQuanago. It might be helpful for the plan commissioners if they saw, Carrie, maybe what the next map and everything this becomes. I'm not quite sure if that.
And we'll get to it. We're kind of jumping the agenda a little bit, but.
Okay.
You know.
Well, I guess as far as the certified survey map goes, it's pretty self-explanatory. I guess I don't have any comments.
We'll probably combining it to develop.
What's that?
It's getting certified survey map just to redo it, so you can develop it.
Right. Yeah. Right. Okay.
Okay, great. Okay, we'll go to the commission. Commissioner Chandler.
No questions, thank you.
Fred.
No questions.
Don.
No questions.
Chris.
No question.
Greg.
No questions on this one.
Ashley,
No questions.
Dawn,
Good for me.
Christine.
Nothing here.
No, this is the easy part right here. This is not a problem, so, we can, entertain a motion, please.
Guzekowski makes a motion that the plan commission recommends to the common, council that a certified survey map submitted by Ryan Jansen, Bruckner LLC for the property at 641 East Drexel Avenue be approved with the following conditions. One, that all existing and required easements are shown on the map prior to recording. Two, that all the deferred special assessment for sanitary sewer is paid prior to issuance of permits for development of any lot. And three, that all technical corrections, including but not limited to spelling errors, minor coordinate geometry corrections, and corrections required for compliance with the municipal code and Wisconsin statutes are made prior to recording.
Seifert seconds.
Just comment before roll call, I'm glad that special assessment for the sanitary sewer was put in there and made clear with the applicant. You understand that? Staff went over that with you?
They haven't actually.
Oh, they haven't. So that could be important.
Yeah, that was something that was actually highlighted by the finance department, and we were made aware of it as we were writing the report. So, it's just something that will need to be taken care of at some point prior to any development of the property. They actually have sorry, Jack. They actually have a requirement that it's prior to any, permit issuance. So, there's a little bit of leeway there, but there is something that needs to be paid on there. Got flagged during the review.
Is it just something that, with the Eden's property?
Yes.
Period? Okay, so it's, okay.
Just wanted to be transparent with that, so. But I'm glad they put it in so it doesn't pop up on you later. We did have a motion and a second on the floor. Where am I? Holy cow. Fred, would you start us out, please?
Okay. Seifert, aye.
Chair aye.
Hannah, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Shinsky, aye.
Lorick, aye. David, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Oldani, aye.
And item H is review a certified survey map submitted by Ryan Jansen, Bruckner LLC, dividing the property at 819R East Drexel Avenue. Jack?
All right, thank you. This is directly east of the previous agenda item. It is also intended to be divided for the proposed plan unit development that'll be reviewed next. Currently, the property is zoned RS3 in floodway districts, and this certified survey map will be proposed to divide the parcel into 4 lots. The acreage for the lots is shown on the screen. Lot 1 is intended to be retained by the current landowners for future single-family residential development. Additionally, all parcels will meet dimensional requirements for the zoning districts. On the map, there is dedication of the 60-foot wide right-of-way for the future public road connection through the center of the parcel. This will provide access from Drexel Avenue to the property and connect both Evanshine Park to the east and property to the south. Wetlands have been delineated and shown on the map along with floodplains, and a 25-foot wide drainage easement was not identified on the map. This will need to be shown prior to recording. Similarly, minor corrections are required prior to recording, including updating the label for Drexel Avenue, correcting the spelling of the Plan Commission Secretary's last name, and amending the language in the signature blocks. With that being said, there is a recommendation for Land Commission to consider. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Questions, comments? Christine, you want to start?
Yeah, I have no questions. Thank you.
Dawn?
Nothing for me.
Ashley?
Nothing.
Greg?
No questions, thank you.
Chris?
None for me either. Thank you.
Don?
No, it's straightforward, thank you.
Fred?
No questions.
Chelsea?
No questions, thank you.
I myself have none either. It's just the second half of this property going on, and that's really about it. So, motion, please.
Oldani moves that the Plan Commission recommends to the Common Council that the certified survey map submitted by Ryan Jansen, Bruckner LLC for the property at 819 R, East Drexel Avenue be approved with the following conditions. 1, that all existing and required easements are shown on the map prior to recording. 2, that all technical corrections, including but not limited to spelling errors, minor coordinate geometry corrections, and corrections required for compliance with the municipal code and Wisconsin statutes are made prior to recording.
Kuzikowski, second.
We've got a second. They can sort it out in the minutes there. We are starting with Commissioner Chandler.
Chandler, aye. Anna, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Jazinski, aye.
Lorik, aye.
David, aye.
Kuzikowski, aye.
Ladani, aye.
Seifert, aye.
And item 7I is review of a request submitted by Ryan Jansen, Bruckner LLC to rezone and to establish a planned unit development on the properties at 641 and 819R East Drexel Avenue. Carrie or Jack?
Nope, I've got this
You
one.
kidding? You gave them all the dirty work and then you take the fun stuff?
Absolutely. We can take the dirty work next time. So what we're talking about right now is actually a plan unit development for those two properties that we just had a review for the certified survey maps. And the request is for single-family side-by-side condos, and the rezone is for RD1, two-family residential, in a plan unit development configuration. It will require a condo plat at some point following all the other reviews that would be required. There would also be a master landscape plan required if this is recommended for approval. There may or may not be a requirement for subdivision approval, and that really has to deal with the number of lots that were created by CSMs and whether or not the additional CSM to divide the future single-family residential at the corner of Drexel and the new road would require a subdivision plat, or if it could be another certified survey map. Really long-winded way of saying there may be another requirement for another division. On the screen right now is a concept development plan showing the overall PUD. Lots 3 and 4 are those future holdings for single-family residential development. Lots 1 and 2 are actually being retained by the current landowner for reconfiguration and redevelopment of their current land into single-family residential components. Throughout the development, we have, again, side-by-side condo units that are proposed off of the future public streets, and there are 3. One is the extension of Quincy, and then that will terminate at the southern end of the property. There will be a kind of a temporary termination at that point. There's also a cul-de-sac on the southern end to serve the remainder of those lots. And then Park Street, which may or may not have to change. We're thinking it actually does, because there are currently roads in the city with Park. That connection will actually connect to Abendschein Park. There is a requirement for a 20-foot wide connection point to the park at that east portion. There are 66 total single-family residences that are proposed. Those are in 33 ranch-style side-by-side condos. So 33 buildings overall, 66 owned residences. The 4 models that we'll take a look at in future slides here will show that there are ranges for the proposed condos from 1,500 square feet to 1,700 square feet. That's above ground. Some of these will actually have walkout basements, and some of them will have kind of a partial exposure. They will be constructed with fiber cement or pressboard siding, stone components, and of course shingle roofs. And each unit will have its own attached 2-car garage. There will be a requirement for a development agreement, as there are future public infrastructure pieces, not just the road, but also utilities. The minimum parking requirement for single-family attached is 2 spaces per dwelling, so a requirement for 132 for the entire PUD. Since everybody has their own attached 2-car garage, they meet the requirement. There is a recommendation from the engineering department that the driveway widths be reduced to 18 to 20 feet at the right-of-way. That's to reduce the asphalt pavement area that's coming off of the public street. There is a modification request, and that is for the rear setback. There are some of these units that are 25 feet as opposed to 30 feet from the rear property lines, but as configured, that's not going to be something that you can really you would really notice if you were there. Staff is fine with the variation, and in fact, it's probably not even something that we would have caught had we not been looking that closely at it. It's the one instance where there is a modification. And in some instances, it's less than 5 feet what the variation would be. So we're just asking for the Plan Commission to approve a variation of 25, or a variation to allow for a 25 as opposed to a 30-foot setback. The maximum density for the district would be 82 units, and they're proposing, again, 33 buildings with 66 units. So they're well below the maximum density that would be allowed, even taking into consideration the amount of wetlands that are on the property and would be excluded from those density calculations. Speaking of which, there would be a couple of small areas where there would be wetland fills. Those permits and approvals from DNR will be required to be submitted to the city once they are approved. And stormwater for the site will also need to go through the typical engineering channels for permitting. Right now, we're going to take a look at these concept elevations. Again, there are 4 models. So these will be throughout the development, incorporating the same kinds of architecture and architectural elements. And on the screen is the suggested motion for Plan Commission consideration. Mr. Mayor.
Great, thank you, Carrie. We've had the applicant up a couple of times. We'll go right to commission. Christine?
Oh, it's just straightforward. I have no questions.
Okay. Don?
Nothing for me.
Ashley? Greg?
My only question, not necessarily on the PUD or the rezone, but the new code, I know we went back and forth a couple times about the garages of single family homes shutting out in front of the face of the home. Does that apply to single family attached, and would that change their designs?
It would apply, and we did actually bring that up with the applicant in staff conversations with him. And while the models, the renderings may not actually show it, they were designed in order to meet the new code requirement.
Okay, thank you.
And I should mention that because these are single family attached, they're treated like a typical single family subdivision. In other words, the only thing that would need to come back to the Plan Commission for review would be the master landscape plan and any future divisions. We wouldn't be reviewing architecture.
Great, thank you.
Yes, no questions for me. Thank you.
I know this is a rezoning, but I have a question about the Park Street Road. It's hard to tell what the plan is there as far as tying it in with the road that comes in for the park.
It would tie in. There's a kind of a temporary connection at 20 feet. I would defer to Commissioner Kuczynski to kind of give a little bit more detail, but Park Street itself would meet the public street requirements in terms of width and design until you get to the east property line, where then it would tie into Abendschein.
So help me out. Is this something we would dig deeper into with the placement of these roads in a future development?
These actually meet the official map. They're actually laid out in accordance with the official map.
Okay.
Am I not understanding the question?
No, yeah, I don't like it, but I guess I don't like that it's tied into the park, because if that could be a lot of traffic coming into the subdivision, going right through the park where you have park goers.
We did have a conversation about that too, and actually the official map does show a future public street on the park property right up against this property line. In fact, I think it actually kind of crosses over the property line a little bit. So the intention was always to have the connectivity.
Good. Thank you.
Fred?
No questions.
Jocelyn?
I do have a question for the applicant in regards to the rezoning. I just want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. So the rezoning would be for, based on the picture we see on the screen, everything in green, and then the 4 pieces of property that are in white would not be rezoned. Is that correct?
Actually, Commissioner Chandler, thank you for bringing that up. The portions of the property that would be in rezoning would be anything but the single-family lots. So even though we are showing, kind of everything that's been affected by all of these reviews in green, lots 1, 2, 3, and 4, and it's not shown as a lot, but the lot that kind of juts back out to Drexel Avenue on the east side, those would not be part of the rezone request. They would not be part of the PUD. It would be just the two-family side-by-side condo units that would be rezoned as part of the PUD.
Thank you.
I just had Mr. Aldani, I would prefer it to also not to connect to the street, to the park, but, that was kind of born out of, Cul-De-Sac maximum. So if we didn't have some sort of connectivity or some other way for emergency vehicles and things to get in, that was kind of where that came from.
Yeah, I remember we jabbed at that off and on about bringing it all the way south and man, I'm having a hard time remembering being okay with tying it into the park, or maybe I wasn't okay with it then. I guess the question would be, has there been thought to the actual, the road itself, the park road coming in, as far as being sufficient?
I'll kind of make some comment on that. That road's gonna need an upgrade, and we'll get Chief Havey up here as well, or Assistant Chief Havey, and get Fire's point of view. But some of the plans going on at Abendschein is gonna require that road to be brought up to standards anyways. Am I correct, Ashley?
Correct. Yep, yeah.
So-
It's a public road. We're gonna have to bring it up to
City
public
standards.
Yes.
So,
Oh, good evening again. I think, engineering's probably answered the question as far as the reliability of the road. So that project is in process. So it is one of the areas we looked at, to navigate through the project, was to have access to it for emergency vehicles. So that is a byproduct of what our requirements are, limited to the number of outlots on a subdivision. Any other questions?
no, and we have had some residents ask about how many homes can be built on a cul-de-sac going back, and, what was put at
The
1,500?
current code is, the length of the road, 500 feet, no greater than 15 lots. So that's an existing in subdivision code.
Right, but if they have hydrants, the question becomes, does that change?
So, currently we're reviewing some of the current code, for fire department operations and with engineering and planning. So it's under review.
I guess this is a question probably for Carrie or Ashley, actually. So the streets they show, Park and Quincy Court and the extension of Quincy, is public or is that gonna be private? But
All public.
that'll all be public. That's gonna be
Yep, so
ours.
public services.
That will
line,
be
garbage,
ours.
yes. that'll be
Okay,
ours.
so that makes me feel actually better about tying into the road and into Avonshine, so to speak. Again, I kind of get your drift on, it is a park and the whole thing, but, given the master plan that changed to Avonshine, and we'll probably hear more about that come the 22nd of March, you'll kind of understand why that road has to be brought up to standards. So, as for the applicant, I think it's really a cool use. I think you're gonna knock it out of the park with this. I think in your letter, you stated Oak Creek has no products like this, and you are correct. And there is quite a market for this in Oak Creek of empty nesters looking to stay in Oak Creek, but downsize and want to own.
Right.
So hats off.
That is still where the market is that demographic right there, and the location's awesome. You can walk to Town Square, and
Location is great.
once you guys get done with that beer garden, it'll be real nice.
Yeah, that's why we need a road in there. So.
Once you guys throw in your $500,000, then we'll hold you good.
Anyways, I guess I didn't, there's some people, if anybody wants to comment on this, some of you stayed here, you may be existing property owners or just adjacent people. It ain't a public hearing, but I'll give you a chance. You sat through the whole meeting. Anybody wants to say anything? No? Oh, Greg has a follow-up.
Just have a quick question for the applicant. Are these all owner occupied for sale, and what's kind of the price range for the model?
It'd probably start around 400,000 for a non-exposed.
Okay, thanks.
If lumber stops going like this.
Sure. Yes, sir. Need your name and address, sir.
Jason Strumzek, 926 East Forest Hill. I border the south side of that cul-de-sac. Is that big enough for fire to turn around in?
That's a great question. Our streets have to be designed that way. Assistant Chief Havey, sorry to make you keep running up here, but that's what you get sitting in the back.
Again, Mike Havey with Fire. According to a design manual of engineering, that is a public street and will have to maintain the standards that are designed for a cul-de-sac.
I mean, you're saying it is big enough?
Yeah, okay, it will be. Fire will determine that, what their needs are, and then Ashley's department takes care of it from there.
Yep, we've got a standard signs for in this case, a permanent cul-de-sac that's shown there in Quincy Court. So it will be brought up to standards. And is.
Okay. There's no other questions, discussions, comments? Motion, please.
Seifert moves that the planning commission recommends to the common
Can I
council.
interrupt for just 1 second? I apologize. There was one change. We wanted to make sure that we highlighted there's no change to the FW floodway and FF flood fringe districts as part of this rezone request. And to answer any questions with regard to what portions are going to be included, we'll make sure that the diagram, the exhibit that goes to the common council makes that very clear, but you do not need to change anything else except for I would recommend you use the motion on the screen.
We'll start over. Seifert moves that the planning commission recommends to the common council that the portions of the properties at 641 and 819R East Drexel Avenue be rezoned to R1 two-family residential. No change to the floodway and the flood fringe districts with the planned unit development after public hearing and subject to conditions and restrictions that will be prepared for the commission's review at the next meeting, March 22nd, 2022.
Hold on 2 seconds.
Roll call, beginning with Christine.
Hannah, I. Grillo, I.
Shinsky, aye.
Laura, aye. Gavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Hold aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chairman Bar,
Okay. Boy, we went all the way around the circuit there the way we're supposed to. Just a couple points of interest for you. It is daylight savings time this weekend on Sunday, so you're springing ahead. Gonna lose an hour of your weekend, unfortunately, but that happens on Sunday. Remember that. And more importantly, March is National Women's Month. So I announced this at the beginning of the month at the meetings. Planning Commission. Women in this city play a very large role at planning, from Carrie right on down to our commissioners. Thank you for all you do. Your fingerprints are all over this. And also all the other women in the other departments, from our protective services to streets, to water, to every department in this city. There is nothing that doesn't have a female influence going in on it. And today is particularly important because the 8th is actually International Women's Day. So it is a day set aside to recognize contributions by all the women that help make this world a better place. So hats off to you and enjoy the month. So with that,
I actually have one thing that is an unofficial request. Based on the conversations that have occurred since the Plan Commission's review and approval and recommendation for council approval of the code, we've identified a couple of areas that needed to be revised. And it's not necessarily major revisions, but things that we wanted to clarify, things that we had someone who came to council and asked us to clarify, and things that we really, I can't say it any other way, we missed. So it's really not anything that I think the Plan Commission would be opposed to, but some of the things that we are making revisions to, the lighting ordinance, making sure that we have identified what is required for both residential and commercial and manufacturing uses, kind of beefing up those standards a little bit, making sure that everybody is aware that all of their fixtures, be it in a residential district or non-residential district, you do need to make sure that your fixtures are appropriately shielded and directed downward. So there are a couple other recommendations that we incorporated into that portion of the code. We wanted to retain the building, kind of the exterior building standards for non-residential, mixed use, and for multifamily. Multifamily was actually pretty well, standardized. We did mention the exterior building materials, but for non-residential and mixed use, we kind of missed the boat. We didn't take the opportunity because we thought it was already in there to say that these are the standards for the exterior building materials. So what we did was we kind of borrowed from what we had and improved upon what we had in order to make those standards there. If anybody has any questions or concerns about that, please let me know. I'd be more than happy to share that with you. And then there was I'm trying to recall what the other minor corrections were. But if anybody has any questions about exactly what's being revised and clarified, please just let me know. It's not something that we felt the need to bring it back to the Plan Commission and kind of start all over with regard to. Council will be providing their final consideration on Tuesday. If any of the Plan Commissioners have any concerns that they would like me to bring to the council, or if there's anything that you think that we still need to do, sooner the better. Appreciate it. There was one other thing that I needed to ask, kind of like an unofficial request to the Plan Commission, but I, for the life of me, can't recall what it is, so I'll have to get back to you on that. I apologize.
Thank you, Carrie. Excellent. So that will get us to adjournment.
Carrillo moves to adjourn at 7:47.
Seifert seconds.
Dawn, will start us off?
Sure, Carrillo, aye.
Shinsky, aye.
Lorick, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Zikowski, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chambara. Anna, aye.
Great. Thank you, staff. Appreciate it. A lot to cover tonight. Well done as always. Thank you.